Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends telling stories and playing tabletop role-playing games together. I'm your host and GM, Pete Loftus, and you can find me on Blue Sky as Chip Enjoyer. You can also find the show on Blue Sky at Risky Standard, and we want to hear from you. If you liked this, if you hated it, if you think you can do better, come over to the Discord. Say that shit to my face. We'll drop a link in the description below.
Link in the bio. Check it out.
And today we're going to hop right back into the action with Part 6 of the Division of Silent Accords, the clandestine covert operations agency within the Boundless Ring, the hardscrabble federation of anarcho-syndicalists fighting to build a perpetual revolution into an interstellar union, uniting the disparate and the downtrodden across the stars. The Boundless Ring is also our patron faction of the first seasonal campaign, The Notes on the Imber Conflict. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, certainly not required reading, but if you enjoyed this and you made it this far, you might as well. That is streaming now wherever long-form science fiction narrative podcasts are available. And to bring this space horror to its thrilling conclusion, we're going to continue with Scum and Villainy, a science fiction setting for Forged in the Dark games by John LaBeouf Little and Stras Asimovic from Off Guard Games and Evil Hat Productions. And today I've got with me our returning cast, beginning with planetary archaeologist and xenoanthropologist Dr. Alice Forstall, as played by Malcolm Hall.
What's up? It's me, Malcolm Hall, the natural apex predator of a bowl of brisket pho.
The interstellar soldier of fortune, Argot, as played by Mitchell Brewster.
What's up, guys? I just want to say that I am today doing a little light cosplay, wearing my mini-pocketed cyberpunk vest, just to get into the spirit of Argot Cartel. And also, I've been reading a lot of William Gibson this week, so I got pockets on the mind.
And the thick-skinned, gun-toting beefcake, Bracco Dr. by Timothy Mans.
Good to be here with you, boys. Good to be here with you, listeners. I also have been putting some time into this character, as in I've been doing really, really heavy 10-minute hit workouts and losing my breath so quickly. So, I know what it's like to be a big muscled man, more or less.
Me too, as do we all.
You got to get those mineral oil injections in your pecs and biceps. Really,
boy, do I.
Mm-hmm.
But the silicon donut thing is looking cool. I like that. Right in the middle of the forehead.
Right in your forehead.
That's a sex thing, I think, right? And of course, last but not least, we have producer extraordinaire Liam Doherty. Last time on Risky Standard, our team of silent operatives, dispatched to the derelict space hulk by your ring intelligence handler Bereska Perneb, had found their way deeper into the mysterious and cavernous interior of the Aeonian. Fresh off of a scuffle with a reanimated cadaver of a sort of void-born squid, they were confronted with a manifestation of an imposing figure bubbling from the cesium gold ichor of the metamaterial that seems to have spread and proliferated throughout the craft and taken roots in the Concordat Justiciar Pollux and the remains of the surviving Concordat reclamation team you encountered earlier in your journey. This roiling manifestation beckoned you further into the interior, closer to the strange seven-spired Basilica growing from the burl at the aft end of the Aeonian, and informing you that you are closer now to the truth than ever. This manifestation, taking the form of what you had concluded must be the profile of the heretical paladin that Pollux was sent to collect or entomb within the six-sided walls of the Aeonian. Presumably, this paladin is also the responsible party for the Conciliator-class warship now crashed through the exterior of the Aeonian and firmly lodged into the great tumorous burl that seems to be feeding on and distorting the Aeonian. And further you went, answering the call of the paladin's echo, Dr. Forstall was able to attune with the interface of the funicular terminal, calling a sort of cable car to bring you across the gulf of the interior and to the edge of the burl. A strange sight awaited you at the end of your crossing, the detonation that Argot Dr. set off with the explosive failsafe of his delinquent model reconnaissance drone tore open a gash in the burl some stories above you, and from this wound had been pouring a sort of cesium gold ichor, but instead of plummeting to the depths below, this ichor had puddled and collected in a kind of accretion disk, extending outward from the techno-organic basilica like an ominous reflection of a palatial garden rendered in copper gold. And in the shadow of this seven-spired basilica, this arboretum seems at time mirror smooth and still like the surface of a pond. You see ridges and spines of something vast breaking the water's surface in great arcs before submerging again, and at other moments colonnades of hedgerows and ornate topiary shrubs, fruiting trees and manicured lawns of shimmering cesium grass. And you followed the stepstone path, nearing the basilica's entrance, and were awestruck as the landscape shifted again, where suddenly you found yourself in the upright spear walls of a Concordat legion, its legionaries standing at attention in monochrome cesium gold. Before you now, flanked by burning salters on a raised platform, you stand before an imposing figure in ceramic white armor with great pauldrons of rolling gold, the imperial regalia of the Concordat hegemon, seated lazily on a great shimmering throne. Dr. Forstall approached the dais, attempting to dispel the echo's air of imposition, and suddenly this figure reared up from the throne with a commanding roar to kneel, as you, Dr. Forstall, were sort of hurled to the ground on one knee. And that's what we're going to pick up right here. So, just setting the scene, you're in this garden. There is this manifestation of what you would recognize as a Concordat legion surrounding you. And, this figure has just risen up, I think is quite large and imposing. And Dr. Forstall, you're on one knee.
So the figure has told Dr. Forstall to kneel, and Dr. Forstall responds by kneeling.
I didn't want to kneel. I want to make it very clear.
Right, you were attempting to kind of attune here, and that thrumming in your temples, I think, overwhelmed, and you sort of were pushed against your will to one knee. And I forgot to mention this, but it's prudent. The Aeonian stability mission clock, I'm going to tick forward here as Dr. Forstall goes to one knee. This will put the clock at 8 of 12 steps. That means you have 4 remaining ticks on this clock before the Aeonian becomes unstable or slips back into thread space.
What's like the signifier we get? Like, what is, this clock advances, we're closer. How do we see or feel that the clock is ticking?
When you were crossing the funicular, right before Bracco set off the null field amplifier, there was this sort of pulsing wave emanating from the beacon. And I think when this landscape shifts like that, we talked about this briefly last episode, the sensation of motion, I think, is what you're sensing, right? Significance, I think, of this clock is the Aeonian is sort of beginning its sojourn. And what Perneb had explained to you was sort of a arcing path towards the red giant star at the heart of this system.
Okay, cool. I am Argot Dr.
Correct?
I have the ability shoot first. When there's a question about who acts first, the answer is me. And I think right now, we are like a small force that are clearly outflanked and outnumbered, facing like a superior threat in an advantageous position. And I think that this is Argot Dr.'s favorite place in the world to be. So I think that there is like a thin smile on his face. This figure has commanded Forstall to knee, and I watch her like kind of shakily lower to one knee. And I think, before it can start to do the speech that it has, which is I recognize the moment we're in, right? I've been in this room before with mob bosses on other planets, with like Concordat paladins in other rooms. And so I think before he speaks, Argo steps forward so that I'm standing next to Alice Forstall with my, whatever side, I forget what side I said my robot hand is. Let's say my left hand is my robot hand, my right hand is my human hand, and if I said otherwise earlier, I'm fucking wrong.
You're wrong, listener.
yeah, you've misheard me. My right human hand, she's on my right hand side. Argo knows that, like, if you undercut this kind of person, if this is a person still, right? That's a question mark, I guess, too, right? I recognize the pomp, even if I don't recognize the goop. And so I think I step forward, and this is kind of, a callback to something I did earlier, where it's like stepping forward and opening this greatcoat to reveal the insignia of the Silent Accords, the 2 pyramids kind of stacked in either direction. And it's like, already talking as I'm stepping into place, right? Standing up, like, proud, projecting an air of not indifference, but like absolute refusal to be cowed or like awed by what I'm seeing, which is awe-striking, right? Question mark, is this thing have human flesh or is it like cesium gold face?
Yeah, great question. So I think, the legionaries and this whole garden are sort of monocolored, right? Like they are sort of this cesium gold. The figure in front of you atop this throne, I think, is not completely. Like, I think the armor in my head is sort of between Warhammer and I think a knight in armor. But this armor in particular is sort of like the white ceramic plate, but it is sort of shot through, and I think almost like veins sort of crawling in decorative motif, matching some of the insignia that was probably there before. But he has a human face peering from beneath the visor.
Great. Stepping up, I've got Dr. Forstall at my side. I think there's also like a flash of ring hand sign again here for Bracco behind me, just ready, whatever that's like.
Yeah.
Right. Not that I even need it, but like we're here, right?
The hand signal is the OK symbol underneath your belt line. And so you get to now punch him.
Yeah, you're getting a punch later. So flashing the badge, right? I am Argot Dr. We, and I gesture to the good doctor and Bracco behind me, are agents of the federated communities that produce the Boundless Ring. We do not recognize the authority of the Hierophant or any other monarch or despot, and we bow to no one. And I think at that moment, Argot grabs Dr. Forstall by the collar and pulls her up.
Do I get up?
Is this your move here? Is the shoot first piece, or?
The shoot first is me talking before he gets a word in.
Okay.
You're going to use me as a human shield. Got it.
No, I'm pulling you up beside me, right? I'm pulling you off of your feet. And I think, continuing, it's like talking while I'm pulling you up, right? Trying to make a point. We are here as representatives of the Aeonian branch, whose councils are empowered to conduct diplomacy on the ring's behalf. We came to this ship to discover the nature of its origins and the fundamental science which powers it. And then it's, staring this man in the face, right? Question mark. We have shared our identity and intentions. We request yours. What is your so-called truth?
I think he laughs, right? Almost snickering, right?
I imagine the image, right, is probably striking. I am like a skinny old man in a big coat, like standing like kind of at the foot of like this sort of throne that he is sitting on in his massive armor.
Oh yeah, he is also probably pushing like 9 or 10 feet. So, you are dwarfed.
There you go, Bracco.
Yeah. If this is also not interrupting Argot's move, after he goes like, we've told you our truth, we demand to know who you are, I think that there is a blaster, whether, I don't know if it's like into the sky or just down or at his feet, but it is like, this thing goes off, start talking now. Kind of reflecting the move of scary. You have an air of menace and danger is obvious to everyone. You gain potency when trying to intimidate someone. So just like the show of force is like, this will go off, and if it's pointed at your direction, if you don't start fucking talking.
So did you shoot it?
Yes. Yeah.
I think a grimace goes across Argot's face when he hears the gunshot. like there's a calibrated social move here, and this is a step further than he meant for it.
Bracco, what are you shooting?
Oh yeah, just a fine blaster pistol.
Okay, so I think
it's okay. Do you know what? It's not at him. It's more of the like to the side. We're gonna start talking now.
Calmly, this figure in front of you raises a hand and sort of catches the bolt, right? I think almost like a ripple in a pond. The cesium reverberates briefly, and you see the energy dispel. And I think, kind of again laughs, right? Looking back to you, Argot, you're just essentially asking his name, right? So I think
identity and intentions, like, right? I shared who we are and why we're here. Like, what's up with you?
And I think he, snickers and says, then perhaps we're not so different, you and I. I too answered the call. All these centuries wasted on 1,000 campaigns in a fruitless crusade, searching for something that was searching for us all along. Where once I was singular, now I am many. And I think continues, right? Rattling some off, incohate, Acheron, creator, builder, betrayer, deceiver. When I bore only one name, I was a paladin. Dendragast, perfected now. And I think he would probably look to you, Bracco. We're playing a much greater game. I think we're here for the same reasons. Why I've invited you inwards.
I think I look to Dr. Forstall to see if she's with us at this point, or if she's still under the influence, as it were.
To be clear, I think you're able to help Dr. Forstall up. I'll give it to you with that move. You can kind of get the jump on it. But I think what you're essentially hearing here is that Dendragast, as we know now, is sympathetic, does not bow a knee to any sort of other false lead either. I think even kind of denounced the Hierophant. Dr. Forstall, what is going on with you? Argot sort of pulls you up out of this, and I think the thrum clears for a moment. You have an opportunity, should you decide to take it.
I mean, do I understand is he saying things that I would know. I guess I'd could I read about these things in a textbook? Or is this gibberish to me?
I think it would kind of track to some degree. What's your question specifically? You know what a Hierophant
are
is?
these names that I know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think in that list are what we've seen throughout the Aeonian, like this statuary. I think some recognizable, as Bracco pointed out before, like probably some figures of deities of different religions throughout the system. I think these names, bear different significance. Builder was one of them, being the sort of godhead figure that the Concordat has been waging sort of a crusade across the stars to find. Yeah.
Okay. So let me just recap real quick. Bracco has shot at him and it's done nothing.
First off, it wasn't a shot at him. It was it was a we're done talking shot. I wasn't trying to kill him, for the record, because Bracco could do it if he needed to.
I think, do I have an opportunity to probably ask him a question? This might be the last question I get to ask. Hey, I don't know.
It's true. Every question here might be your last.
I think that, I'm going to ask him, what role do we play? Have you brought us here on purpose? I think that maybe she's starting to feel like he perhaps has, influenced certain, through thread space, has fundamentally influenced the apparatical algorithms that would have chosen to bring us here.
Sure, weaving the threads of fate.
Exactly.
Together. Okay, so I like this.
He's weaving the threads of fate to his own ends, and I kind of want to ask, why have you brought us here? What is it about us that helps you? What means to what ends have you brought us here? It's that's what I want to ask him.
I like that we're kind of putting together Dr. Forstall's theory, right? I think, almost like cocks his head in this sort of clank of the armor and says, "Why? I didn't bring you here. I answered the call, as did you. I heard the song of the infinite, its melody so severe, so true. It was a clarity of purpose which has brought you here as well. We serve a grand design, almost enacted.
And what design is that?
To reach into the heart of a star."
I think that she's probably never wanted to go home more in her entire life.
I regret this.
Yeah. I have answered the call of duty that I felt was right for science and for the advancement of the ring and my people, and in a way, the advancement of all sentient life in the galaxy. I'm scared now. I think she's definitely feeling in over her head. I think that she needs to maybe try and attune to peer into, does this man have a brain, or is this just a hologram portraying something else at this point? Is this a physical body?
There's only really one way to tell if somebody's got a brain.
Yeah.
I would love to see if it has a brain. I'm blowing it out.
There's two options, basically, right? You can crack open the skull, having to pierce the armor, or you can try and sort of attune to whatever this is and try and answer that question. If you're going to take the attune roll, I'm going to say that is a desperate standard action. I think this, Legion, right, as the sort of thrum, and I think part of this is it's in your head, but it's also coming from the Basilica, right? And this burl, imagine again the Hagia Sophia growing out of this tumorous burl at the aft end of this ship. And you can sort of feel the rumbling emanation. You're close to the source here now. So go ahead and give me an attune roll. You can push yourself. I can offer a devil's bargain. Someone could help you here.
I am personally not going to put myself into the mind meld with the alien
Yeah,
consciousness.
not for me.
I think you're flying.
I'm not
solo
even
on this
halfway
one,
through
Doctor.
with my stress. I got to take 2 stress to push myself. That's pushing it close, but I don't know how much else use I am here. I may as well be aggressive. Be aggressive. I'm going to push myself for 3 dice.
You're taking a dice, right? So
I'm taking a
for
dice.
success on a desperate standard roll, go ahead and hit it. Ooh.
Nice.
Oh.
So that is a 2.
Mine is melded for sure.
So on a
My
failed
mind
roll,
goes. It turns into scrambled eggs.
Much like the ichor, it starts running out your ears.
And I mean, I think that is not dissimilar to the sensation that washes over you, Dr. Forstall. You sort of open your mind and extend like a psychic link outwards, and as if stepping into cool water that you might think is shallow, the sensation is rushing up. It's like as if you are in a moment awash, suspended, almost like a cold liquid, covering you head to toe. I think Argot, Bracco, you would see Dr. Forstall probably even taking a step forward. I mean, Argot, you're right there, but I think she's trying to kind of bend the knee again. But for you, Dr. Forstall, in the kind of mental landscape here, it is dark. You, I think, can see the shimmering lights of a surface high above you, and there is a sensation of quivering change, like instability all around you. And I think as you are almost like Get Out, you are feeling extremely distant from everything. It's almost like you're in the vacuum of space. And in a moment, I think you have an image of the Aeonian adrift, nearing this red giant star, the center of the Tenemer system. And from a vast vantage point, I think in a moment, you see glowing copper gold like eyes open in the depths of space. From the darkness between stars, I think almost like a shadowy figure in a moment, almost hallucinatory, almost seems to reach up and around the Aeonian as it drifts on its course. And, that is a failure. So I think you are going to take level 2 harm here. And I think this is, maybe we'll say, occluded. You're sort of hazy here. I think reality starts to lick back around the edges of your vision. This picture comes back into focus. I'm going to turn the camera over to Argot and Bracco here. Dr. Forstall is acting strange. I think is sort of bowed to one knee and his sort of head lazily hanging forward. And I think is even kind of murmuring a bit. And I think as this is sort of happening, Dendergast is beginning to step down from this dais. And I think Dr. Forstall is maybe like a step ahead of you. And I think he's sort of like reaching out with an open hand to sort of cradle Dr. Forstall's chin.
I would like to flash back.
Oh, okay.
Hell yeah.
What do you got?
Dr. Forstall, would you do me the favor of marking your fine med kit in your load?
Oh, yes, I will.
Great, because you've had it the whole time.
I have.
And what the camera now sees is the period of time when we were on the gondola traveling towards the interior of the Aeonian, and you were focused on manipulating controls for the Aeonian, while Bracco was simultaneously busy watching our rear for the hordes of cesium bird things in the air. And our camera catches Argot quietly and very, discreetly opening the fine med kit and pocketing a handful of syringes, applicators, and vials.
Oh, you
He's cleaning out the medicine cabinet.
Yeah.
Don't invite Argot to your grandma's house.
So, to perform this flashback, you'll need to pay stress, or you
Yes.
can use a cred. What exactly is the action here? So you've got this med kit, because I'm trying to figure out basically what the stress cost is. So
So the stress, it's 0 stress for a normal action for which you had easy opportunity, 1 stress for a complex action or unlikely opportunity, and 2+ stress for an elaborate action which involves several special opportunities or contingencies.
Okay.
I do feel like this was not the most unlikely opportunity, right? I had time and reason to get into that med kit.
Reasonable to think a doctor would have a med kit. So
Yeah.
this kind of sounds like maybe 1 stress to
I'll
me.
take 1 for this.
Okay.
And I probably should have marked it before when I
Doing some of your autopsy stuff, maybe.
when I gave that paladin the sedative.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we've seen Argot knows that Dr. Forstall has the good drugs on her right now. So, camera flashes back to show Argot looting the med kit when the good doctor was piloting the thing. I would remind our careful listeners, this also happened after Dr. Forstall had admitted to feeling a little bit lost with regards to space and time after commuting several times with the alien technology here. And so I think as Argot's hand slides out of one of the many pockets on his heavy greatcoat, we are not surprised to see that he has 2 kind of emergency field applicators One of which I think is like adrenaline, right? It's just space adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
And the other is like an anti-hypnagogic drug delivery, right? It's like to prevent hallucinations, like probably specifically designed for these kinds of scenarios where concordat, like fundamental field agents, thaumaturges are using the fundament to like cloud perception, right?
I love it. Anti-fundamental pharmaceutical is very funny to me.
So I think, the action that I'm taking right now is slamming both of these into like the side of Dr. Forstall's neck with my like robot hand, while my other hand that was on her collar is like yanking her back. And I think this feels to me like doctor, right?
Yep.
Which is, I believe, one of the only skills I didn't take a pip in.
So I do think that's a doctor roll. So
let's talk dice, maybe. Let's talk position and effect here.
Yes. So I'm going to say that this is I did the flashback, so I'm going to say this is like a risky great. If you succeed here with your flashback and this gained fine item, Dr. Forstall will pull out of this trance. I can offer you a devil's bargain. You can try a setup action if someone can help you. Or, of course, you can push yourself for the success.
So I'm definitely going to push myself for an extra dice here. And by extra, I mean 1 dice.
Yeah.
There's 2 stress on the board.
You took your stress cost from the flashback?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
It puts me at 5 out of 9, so I'm creeping up. I'm going to spend a gambit also. So that's going to put me at 2 dice. Bracco, if you got a way you can assist.
I mean, the way I was thinking of being able to assist is just like this being is coming forward and you're pulling back and Bracco becomes a wall between.
I'm like throwing her behind me. It's like stab in the neck, I throw her behind me, and you're stepping in front to like complete the block.
Yeah, cool it is. Move, you are not getting to this person. He's using his body with what it for what it is, a stone wall of. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but to stop him.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that works. So the action in my mind here is like you are pulling Forstall up, maybe like putting her on her back to kind of drive this syringe in. And in the meantime, Bracco is like stepping in between you just to kind of make sure that Dendragas cannot reach you, right?
Yeah, I think that's part of the hand signals.
Yeah. I said ready, and it wasn't just to shoot, right? It was like to be ready for it, whatever my next move is. So that's 1 stress for Timmy, 3 dice for me. You said risky great.
That is risky great. You are at, I believe, 3 dice in total with the setup.
Yep. Push, and then the gambit, and then the assist. So that's pretty good for a thing I have no.
Pretty good for a guy who's
in.
not a doctor.
Yeah, hey, it's true, but I am very familiar with pharmaceuticals. All right, rock and roll.
Ooh. Okay. It's a 6.
Argot cartel thrives under pressure, baby.
It says on the business card. So with the benefit of your fine med kit, I'm going to, I think, downgrade this to a level 1 harm. And we'll say that is fuzzy. You're going from occluded to fuzzy. So you have a level 1 harm where I think you're still kind of shaking this off. That'll give you less effect on anything that would be like a mental capacity roll. On a 6, this maneuver looks rehearsed, right? Like it is clean, it is tactical. It is almost like ballet.
I was just say, I think the sad truth of Argot Cartel's life is that he has done this many times before, but usually it's like a sedative, not adrenaline, right? Like he's black bagged people before. This is like, this is rehearsed, right? This is like a muscle memory.
Yeah. So on a 6, this goes off without a hitch. Bracco, you are now staring up at this, imposing figure. I think is now stepping down the dais here. And you have kind of interrupted. And so
absolutely.
Hand previously was kind of outstretched. And I think Dendragas kind of bellows, right? Like, oh my belligerent apostate. What choice would we have? And I think he starts to reach towards you, Bracco. And I think, this shuddering coming from sort of after the ship, starting to thrum and grow. You can feel this motion. And I think for like a brief second, the Legion lined up here, almost statuary, I think quivers, again, like that sort of ferro fluid, like a ripple moves through them.
Okay.
I think you've made him annoyed.
Good.
And so, what are you going to do?
Is the hand still outstretched?
I think it was going to like reach out to Dr. Forstall, but I think it's like seized in a fist, right? As like you have interrupted this.
What is this creature size again?
I think probably stands on top of this dais, like larger than life. That may be true, could be an illusion, kind of unclear. You know this place is sort of unreliable in its depiction.
I guess the question was close enough and size-wise to that hand that is turned into a fist. Can Bracco get his big gray hand around it and, like, crush it?
I mean, you are a big person, so, you know, he's picking on somebody his own size. You can certainly try it. I think it's probably still larger simply by virtue of being in this, like, encased in armor. You know, you're strapped, but I don't know that you could, like, completely wrap your hand around the wrist. I think he's probably got, like, maybe a foot on you, but
Okay.
you're close.
I guess it's a grab the arm to pull in and try to, if not actually stab, get the vibroblade to, like, what would be a weak point in the armor.
Sure.
Of, like, I guess the idea is that we are not giving them one more chance, but this is the time you need to tell us what it is, and this is your last chance.
Bracco, you, of course, are an Aurelian, and Aurelians are a race of kind of spacefaring barbarian nomads, right? So you've probably worked a knife into a vac suit dozens of times over the course of your life. What is the, like, weak spot you look for?
I mean, I think that it's, like, from, like, what would be the upper breastplate to, like, where the rib cage is. He knows that you could get something in there, under there, and pop it, kind of like you would shuck an oyster.
Absolutely. Jesus Christ had the same weak point, so you can do that.
But I think it's doing that and just under, like, a little bit under his breath, in a very threatening tone of, like, my friend Cattell asked you to make your motives clear. I will give you one last chance.
Are you thinking, is the intent here to get him to talk or to do harm? Because it's going to influence what kind of role you're going to do. I think, to me, on the outset, sounds like scrap.
Out of the corner of his eye, like, while he's doing this, does Argot want to try to talk to him one more time, or is this getting in there, this knife is going in, and you're going to start talking because it hurts?
I got things to say for sure, but I can work them in whatever way makes most.
I think this is a fucking space god who has been threatening us and almost wiped fucking Dr. Forstall's mind. I think that it is getting close and putting it in.
You do have a special move in your playbook, which is Wrecking Crew. Your strength and ferocity are infamous, so when striking in melee, you gain 1d forward, and when you spend a gambit in combat, you would also gain potency. So if you're kind of just doing straight up violence here to drive this vibroblade through this armor, definitely going to be a scrap roll.
Okay.
Striking with melee, you can take 1d forward on that. This is going to be, I think, a risky standard. You have 2 in scrap. You're getting an additional dice. You have 3 on the dice roll. You can push yourself. You could swap position for effects.
I guess I'll take the 3d6, I think. We don't want to spend that last gambit. Yeah, this is just getting the ball rolling on hurting this man, or creature, or entity. So we're rolling 3d6. 4. Ooh, okay.
So 4's a partial. I think what happens here is, like, you step up and this blade, it's like a big Bowie knife has this vibrating, like, atomic edge is I think what we described before. And, you know, on a 4, you do succeed in getting it into this spot, right? I think, you know, you're right up in his face. I think as you slide the knife in, you know, it does give after some initial, I think, resistance. And you're close enough now where it smells like blood. Like, it is the smell of metal. And you press this vibroblade through armor, and, you know, you can feel it give, almost like you're just kind of tearing through the exterior. And it continues to give and give and give and give. And you find your arm kind of sinking into this cesium gold, almost like sucking and pulling. And I think at the moment you start to feel that you would want to retract, it's almost like the knife continues to pull. Like, you almost can't let go of it.
Okay, that's interesting. Maybe stick a fucking grenade inside of this thing if it's going to get stuck in there.
If you want to try and, like, push this a little further, right? You have one arm in here. You have one hand free. You have bandoliers and pockets full of stuff.
Yeah, do I want to put both of my hands in there and be stuck with a grenade going off? No, I don't think so.
I'm going to give you, like, one harm here. If you want to try and put, like, what are you doing? You chilling here? It's probably going to keep sort of sucking.
Right, I was going to say, is this like a pickle jar kind of thing? If you know what I mean? Like, you can't get the knife out because you're holding onto the knife, but if I let go, it's going to be easier to pull out, or...
Yeah, that's a good question to ask. Glancing down at your forearm, I think you can see that the edge of the armor here is almost like a non-Newtonian fluid, like an oobleck, they call it, right? Like it's almost like rippled, and as you tug, I think you can see it bend and give and
Okay.
wiggle.
Well, if I'm stuck inside, is there something close enough that he could just like, well, if you're gonna keep my arm there, I'm gonna move my arm and like bash it against something.
For sure. We're in the theater of the mind here, right? So, I think this platform we talked about before, there's like salters burning in a weird, illusory flame of like cesium gold. I think that there are, coins, goblets, whatever, like all the kind of trappings of...
I think like right next to like this fire on the pedestal, he could just kind of like slam the body up against it as whatever kind of coals that would be feeding that kind of like fall down around him. But it's just, you're going to keep me here. You're going to be put where I want you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. You can definitely like shift your body weight, and I think toss him sort of back. You're big enough where I think I'll probably let you get away with this on Wrecking Crew on your initial roll. But I think if you're trying to push this further, I'm probably going to have you do a scrap roll again. I'm going to check in with the other two, because we're sort of seeing you up on this altar here, right? And I think it's sort of like you have managed to like take a little bit of control back, but you are still sort of in this compromised position.
For sure.
Argo, I think Alice is kind of coming to, Dr. Forstall is coming to.
Thank you.
And Argo, the image of it is like Pulp Fiction, right? Like Uma Thurman's like getting the adrenaline shot.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like, you even have like a little dribble of like blood coming down your nose or something just from this push. Argo, I think you're sort of like over top of her, maybe not completely laying down, but like on a crouched position. What are you guys thinking as you're watching Bracco wrestle with this thing?
I guess that's the first thing I'm doing is like I'm looking at Dr. Forstall, and I'm just trying to assess, like, is there like a look of awareness in her eyes? Is she with us, or is she still under the spell of this thing?
You can see it coming around. I think the adrenaline like takes a second, but there's like a spark in your eyes, Dr. Forstall. I think at this point, it's a pretty low grade harm. I think it feels like a headache. You like have a aching skull, but you're clear headed, and I think the longer we give this as Bracco's stalling and killing time up here, you're sort of feeling the onset of this chemical cocktail.
I think I'm gonna like whisper to Forstall pretty urgently here. And I think I say, end game now, Doctor. Figure out what kills it. I'm gonna buy us time. And I stand up, and I think Bracco is like wrestling with it. I can see his arm is caught in the thing. And I think Argo laughs. A theatrical laugh, right? That cuts across the stadium, and it's like one last glance down to Dr. Forstall. Hail Mary, you've got to figure this out. And I take a step towards where this struggle is happening. And, it's like a chuckle. And I think I say, you've been stuck, haven't you? Looking at the face of the thing, and then looking around, I guess.
You're speaking to Dendergast, right?
Well, yes, but no, right? I think I say, not the paladin. I don't want to talk to him. And I look around at like the soldiers, right? We can hear the sound of like Bracco kind of struggling with like the guy on the dais, and I'm kind of like speaking to the room now.
Oh, I like that.
I mean, unless there's a immediate response, I'd say you're stuck. And I'm like riffing on this as I'm walking around, right? 300 years, longer maybe, in and out of thread space. You've just been hoping for some brave fool like this paladin to give you what? A corpse to puppet around? Some means of controlling the system that you can't? What is it? And I think, again, drawing attention to myself, hopefully away from Dr. Forstall, as she concocts whatever the Hail Mary is. You're not the builder. You're not a god. You're not any inchoate. You're just another hitchhiker who got stuck on a rig they couldn't figure out how to control.
Dendergast, the figure in white and gold, I think is pretty caught up in this fricassee with Bracco. But a voice calls back to you, and I think from no particular direction, almost like around you. You hear a voice seemingly from one of these legionaries in line, another probably from behind you, like, "Ah, you see us at last." You awake from the dream of the finite, stuck, no, seeking, compelled, hunting that which was forgotten. Though right you are. I am no incohate, no builder, something greater, older, outside. I need only time. And I think like you are feeling this sort of probing. You can sort of I'm not sure exactly how your cybernetics would work with this, and I don't think you have anything in attune. But what would be the sensation of like whispers licking at the edge of your psyche, probing? I think for weaknesses here, and like if we were seeing this through Argo's point of view, we'd get like lens flary, like weird. It's like you're sort of coming up on acid, like in this momentary response. You have certainly called some attention here. What are you trying to do with it?
This might be a setup action, I think. Because basically what I am hoping, and this is a big reach, but I am hoping that in the time that I am like distracting this thing and drawing its attention, this is a called shot by Argo. Argo thinks he has like a sense of understanding of what we're dealing with, right? Which is like some kind of organism which seems to assimilate other things and then replicate them. And Argo thinks, and maybe this is right, maybe this is wrong, but Argo thinks that for whatever reason, it can't control this ship, and it needs people to do that part of it. And that's why it's been calling to them, and that's why it's been floating for 300 years, and it's just now approaching this star. So that is Argo's called shot. And his hope here, right, is that by grandstanding and drawing its attention out and trying to speak to its true intentions, he can keep its focus long enough for Dr. Forstall to, like, I don't know, ideally poison it, right? Like, fucking make it real sick. I would happily roll like a setup action to give her better, position or effect.
You can certainly set up an assist action here. You would be setting up a setup action. And so, Dr. Forstall, maybe tell me about your idea, and then I'll give a little more context.
I think that Argo is like, okay, figure something out, and then walked away. And she is freaking out still. She takes her backpack off and is going through everything and be like, what could I possibly have that could do anything about this? And then she finds the sentinel phage goo sample inside one of the test cylinders. How much did we say was this? Probably like,
I think you'd said before it was like sort of like a tennis ball tube sample container.
So I think that she is like seeing this and then like, connecting the dots of like, oh, they look and act like antibodies. They protect the ship against this, but like they haven't been able to protect it against this other invasive thing there. And I think that she's going to like find the biggest needle she can find and screw it onto this sample thing. Or maybe she's like she already has like a big needle and like takes it and like clips it into like this giant syringe and is like going to go and try and inject it into, what's this guy's name again?
Dendragast.
She's going to try and inject it into his back and like see if like the sentinel phage can like replicate and, sort of dissolve him from the inside.
Yeah, I like that. I'm putting a 4-segment clock on the board that I'm going to advance by 1 tick already because of Bracco's ongoing grappling. And this clock is the echo of Dendragast on the platform that is at 1 of 4. This is sort of like a damage clock. So when you fill that clock, it will sort of dispel this figure. So you can take this opportunity from Argo to give yourself a setup here. And
so I would be rolling like the setup action, right? And then
yes,
it would be the doctor getting the bonus for her action to like inject this thing. It's like, what are you injecting Dendragast with?
It's a sentinel phage.
But that's material. What he's made of already, right?
Oh, I thought he was made of like a golden ichor, and the sentinel phage is like a different thing.
No, I think it's all sort of made of the same thing.
Never mind then.
What I'm putting up here, which is what I thought, which I think is a cool idea, is like you have your briefcase stage. You are a field operator, I think you could like synthesize something based on your physical background. That's what I thought you were saying. So if that's not the case,
I mean, yeah, I did not even think about that. Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, could you replicate it and make it something that is like a sickness that would then spread through it? Like
That just seems like something I could do within the confines of a couple seconds. It just doesn't really feel like it makes a lot of sense in the
baby, we're in a space adventure. You can do anything you want.
Okay.
Right,
Well, then
like it's, maybe there's something here of like you've got the sample, running it through the computer to try and find like what properties does it most resemble that we already know, right?
Or it's been analyzing in your backpack this whole time, right? Because the sample container clicks into the stage.
Back? Yeah.
I feel like if there's any person here, right? I feel like if any one of us could figure out a thing that would react negatively to this material, it is Dr. Forstall. Argot is counting on your ability to compare this to things you've seen before and figure out a thing that would hurt those that could possibly hurt this.
So as a reminder on that, the Doctor Strange ability is that your research and fields of study are fringe, esoteric, and focus on the mystical. You can always handle precursor artifacts safely. When you study or doctor a strange substance, you can ask a question. Previously, we'd asked, could this be dangerous, right? I would say if you wanted to flash back and sort of have actioned that, definitely do that and say that, you had sort of plugged it into whatever ongoing analysis and we're trying to synthesize, essentially like an antibody, right? These are bacteriophage adjacent sentinel phage that you took this sample from. I think your assessment of the sentinel phage is correct, right? They are like the antibodies here. They are sort of a biological machinery that seems to have been preserving and sustaining this thing.
Okay.
Maybe what we're looking at is like my setup action is for the doctor role for you to test the sample and find a reactive substance.
Okay, so is this going to be a flashback move or not?
I think probably not a flashback.
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that my setup action here, right, which I imagine is probably a sway, is distracting the chorus of cesium while you are like, you've got the sample, you've got your like fine med kit, and you've got the briefcase stage. You are like running, tests for suitability, right? Like, what is this like similar to? You're scanning it and you're also searching for like, what is it reactive to? You know what I mean? Like, you're trying to engineer in the field, like a thing that's going to be bad when it touches this stuff.
Okay.
Argo, why don't you give me this setup action and we'll see how that turns out.
Right. So yeah, so I've
I think this is like sway, probably.
I think so.
You're trying to coerce, buy time, distract. So that sounds like a sway roll. You have 2 in sway. I'm going to say that this is a controlled standard effect here. You can certainly chat your way through buying some time.
Like, I want her to do science to it and like figure out something, because otherwise we're fucked.
Yeah. I am XKCDing right now. Stand back. I'm doing science.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so give me that sway. That's going to be, again, a controlled standard effect. You can push yourself for this setup action if you want. What do you got?
Bracco, you want to spend 1 stress to help assist me here?
Yes.
You can keep the paladin occupied with like wrestling around while I'm keeping the chorus occupied.
I think that Bracco is like slamming and landing punches and hitting kind of in time with "you're stuck." Bam. You don't know how to get off this ship. Bam.
Nice.
You've been looking for this paladin, and it's just moving with that rhythm
like
to
this,
really
like
just.
There's coins and goblets and all the trappings of concordat decadence here, sort of clattering, I think, and melding into the puddle beneath.
Yeah,
and it's 3d6 controlled standard.
3d6 controlled standard, correct?
All right. It's a 3, and a 4. Partial success, baby.
I think as you're kind of like chatting through here, right? You kind of go back and forth. And I think when you are kind of like giving this like, hitchhiker line, right? Or you're sort of kind of being dismissive. I think that the sort of like front row of this cesium legion, I think drops spear point. It's almost like automata, right? But they sort of just point them. No action right now, but it's like the spear wall is now pointed at you as Bracco continues to grapple. Dr. Forstall, the pressure is sort of building, but you are given an opportunity to act. So you have increased effect or improved position. You are effectively kind of synthesizing something.
Here's how it goes down. All right. I think I'm going to run behind the throne maybe have just like a little bit of hidden place to do what I need to do. Do you think that the briefcase stage could be able to handle something like this, or is this something else I need to mark?
Yeah, I think it could handle it,
Okay.
right?
I'm like opening up on the left side. I take the sentinel phage substance sample. It's a nice alliteration there. I plug it into the left side of the console, right? And on the other side, there's also another open sort of socket. And I take an empty sample
Tube. Yeah, sure.
tube, and I plug it in on the right side, right? And I think that what I'm doing is I am running this through. In music theory, there's something called negative harmony.
Okay, like it.
So like every song has its polar opposite, because there's like a wheel of notes and things laid out. And then like there's an opposite side to that. So like
Evil Beach Boys be
YouTube.
like, wouldn't it be terrible?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. So I think she's running it through this, and like as the on the left side the substance is draining out, the other side is filling up, right? And it's running it through, and it's like hitting it with certain radiation. It's like reading the sort of like genetic code and then finding the opposite and switching it to
I love that.
So like this liquid on the right is sort of draining out, and then the right side, this clear sort of goo is filling up on the other side.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this sort of cesium gold on one side, and as it percolates through this, thing, like I like this, it's sort of pearlescent, like
a pearl jam, if you will.
Sure. Yeah. Gross.
Pearlescent, it's almost like an oil slick a little bit. It was sort of rainbow kind of sheen.
Yes, I like that. So it's like it has the same texture and quality, but colorless. So you can do this. That to me is a doctor role for sure. And yeah, you have 3 in doctor. You're being given an assist setup action here, so you can take increased effect or improved position. This role is basically for synthesizing this, right? And I think I'm going to set this one at a risky standard.
Wait, can I choose
this is now you can
greater
choose
or effect
increased
or
position or effect.
Position or effect?
Look at that effect, baby. Let's kill this
go with
thing.
effect. We'll go with risky position, great effect.
You want to take a gambit on this?
Yeah, I will take a gambit as well.
We got one gambit
extra
left,
die. So I think this is the Hail Mary pass. We're doing this 46 risky great and 5. Not bad.
Not bad. Okay.
Listen.
5. Yeah.
Hey,
so that's
I'll
a 5. That is a partial success. So so you've synthesized this. You have this vial of the pearlescent antibody. You mentioned you were kind of running behind the throne. Bracco is wrestling with this hulking figure. What are you doing with the vial?
I think that, she has like a big polished silver scary syringe, and she like pops one of the ends off and then like slams this sample tube inside of the hollow syringe body.
Yeah, so this is like a handheld syringe. I think on a 5 you can get pretty close, and maybe it's like you're running, sort of getting there, you've pulled out this synthesized vial. I think to plunge it into, on a 5, on a partial success, you're gonna need to like clear this distance. Bracco,
can I help by like in the fight moving it towards just as the doctor is like.
So I think you kind of catch a glimpse. You see Dr. Forstall kind of clambering up the back of this throne. What's your idea to subdue? Your arm is still kind of half into the abdomen of this wet and goopy armor.
I think as we wrestle, like it's kind of been blow for blow, and I think that this is the move is to take a big knee to sweep the legs so that it takes me with it as we just fall to the ground and weight on top of it as much as I can keep them there so we're not swinging around, and maybe one arm bar like up to the neck so that if the doctor needs to run in.
That makes sense to me. I think we'll probably treat this sort of like a setup. We're sort of like putting him into position here. Give me just like a quick scrap.
That's 3d6, right? Yeah.
Yes. That's going to be a risky standard.
That's a 5.
Okay. So on a 5, I think this is all sort of going to plan, right? And I think there's a moment where you kind of like leg sweep, whatever, and I think tripping over some of this stuff here, you manage to drop the paladin And, this is your moment, Dr. Forstall. And I think on a 5, that doctor roll, I think, applies both to the synthesis as well as damage. So I'm going to increase this by 2. I'm taking that forward. This, setup here, I think works. Forstall, I think you got to push it in. You've synthesized. I think that alone works. This moment is like you sort of have him on the ropes. And I think meanwhile, the back and forth between Bracco and the paladin here is sort of sending shockwaves like through this crowd around you. I think if you were to kind of glance around on the horizon or the edges of your perspective, like even some of those topiary pieces we walked by are sort of collapsing.
Okay. I guess this is a scramble roll to...
Yeah, avoiding danger, kind of getting in here.
Mm-hmm. And we're halfway there. All right, rolling 2d6.
Okay,
5.
Ooh.
Nice. That was pretty
That
tense
one
for me
showed
too.
up.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've synthesized this. I think we would probably call that fine. I think on a 5, this is a partial. And what happens here is I think you slip this into the neck faceplate, somewhere where there's a gap in the armor. And I think I'm going to fill this clock because you're using something you've crafted specifically designed to counteract this, right? And so a couple things happen at once. The injection enters the skin, and we talked about that like smell of blood earlier, right? And it's like that metallic smell kind of shifts to like ozone,
Blood.
right? Like sort of like
Blood.
burning.
Sticky.
Yeah, no, exactly. And, I think like this starts to cascade around you. And I think it's like as, Bracco, you would feel this sort of give as I think you can like shuck your arm out of here. I think it kind of drips with this thick ichor. Yeah. And all around you, right? It's like as this serum starts to creep and course through the kind of body of Dendergast here, like the surface boils. So we talked about this before, is like when sand is like on an amplifier, it kind of creates these like cascading patterns like between there and ferrofluid, and it sort of starts to ripple. And I think that all of these structures, this ornate kind of palatial garden, begins to do the same thing as this wave sort of reaches outward. The illusion is dispelling. And in a moment, I think this figure of Dendergast kind of falls and flutters into kind of its constituent parts. As this construct sort of dissolves, the Basilica to the rear of this throne, looming large, you can hear, I think it's groaning, straining. These sort of reverberations, I think, also shoot upwards and outwards towards that direction. Again, I think the Hagia Sophia is like the biggest pull in my mind, but there's this kind of vast doorway, right? This, I think, is where the burl meets. I think you can kind of see inwards, right? Like, I don't think there's a door here. There's just like an opening. But this kind of accretion disc is sort of being affected by this injection as well. And so I think from where you entered the garden, you could hear like plunking as this is sort of falling away as this poison courses through.
You need to get off this disc. Like, will we fall if it...
Argot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that this voice has quieted in your head.
Okay.
I think that probing that you felt before almost like beckons you forward still, right? Like we've kind of heard before, but you're sort of just getting like a pastiche of imagery, of ideas, of thoughts. I think in like a quick succession of montage, right? Like the image of Pollux's like kind of engorged and like pulsing vein in his neck flashes before you. I think you get the kind of sensation of like a kind of like web of neurons. You get a sense of like the long stretch of extremities, kind of in quick succession here. And I think even as this is sort of happening and the kind of cesium platform you're standing on starts to sort of fall away, it's almost like it's dropping all around you, but what is sort of exposed in this is sort of like a thick, veiny sort of like web extending kind of beneath your feet from this basilica.
And so it's like suggesting, right, this network is leading back into the basilica. Is that like kind of the
Correct, yeah. Seemingly, I think from where you're standing, you can see that this is like extending outwards, but converges into the entrance of this basilica. And I think that's all you can make out at the current moment.
So there's like two thoughts here. One thought is that we go into that basilica and presumably confront the source of this. My other thought is that we get onto the Concordat ship that is crashed near us and we get off of this boat.
What about the arrogant neighbor?
The ship's a ship.
As a reminder, right, to the listening audience, Argo, you had an aside with your ring intelligence handler, Bereska Perneb, before you were dispatched to the Aeonian, and you were given a certain object, right, as a sort of plan B, right? If things did not go well, you had a kind of secondary objective to ensure that this problem was solved. Two options in front of you, right? Like one is probably to rig this sort of fundamental detonation, destroy it here, get the heck out, or you can try and peer into the veil of eternity.
Yeah, I think that it would be sort of cowardly and irresponsible to leave whatever this is, like, still functioning to potentially come back at any given time.
And I think, like, as you're talking, right, as you guys are kind of working out what to do here, time is elapsing. The ship is moving. There is a lot going on, right? There is groaning and thrumming. The sound from the aft of the ship like continues to build. I am going to tick the Aeonian stability clock forward one here. What I'm implying is you need to take some urgency. So
Right. Argo is going to approach the throne where Bracco and Dr. Forstall are at. And I think once more I'm going to reach into this coat of many wonders and withdraw. I think this is like another flashback. I think this is like a pretty possible one, right? It is pulling out like a Concordat authority seal that I took from Pollux's armor, like an override command.
sure, a tithe.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. And I think what Argo would say here, right, is Dr. Forstall is the only one who has knowledge of what we've seen here, the ability to synthesize something to combat it. A conciliator-class warship is going to be filled with hopefully still functioning escape vessels. We can't leave this here by itself. It wants to get to the star. It's maybe been able to use these Concordat long enough to set it on the right course there. And I think, I look up towards the Basilica. And I guess the other players don't know that I have this. I should probably reveal this now, right? This is like, I reach in my jacket. Do we have a physical description for what this thing looks like?
Yeah, I think we talked about it once before as sort of being like a sort of like pelican case was the idea we originally had. I'm open to retconning because we didn't really get a good look at it. You were given this thing. It's an object, I think, of transportable size.
Yeah, it's not in the case anymore, right? I've had it in the coat the whole time. So I'm imagining like a polyhedral kind of, right?
Sure.
Like a kind of like 17-sided, polygonal kind of like. And I think as I hold it, those plates of the different polygonal sides almost kind of magnetically separate a little bit. And I think that there is a fundamental storm inside of it.
Oh,
right?
I like
There's
that.
this chaos of energy and almost like it's got a swirling nebula inside of it where a thunderstorm is happening.
I like the idea that it's currently exploding.
Yes.
It is just being contained.
But it opens just slightly and then it comes back to close. I'm calling this a Black Swan device, I think.
Okay.
This is a fundamental antimatter bomb. And I think Dr. Forstall, you would recognize it immediately. This is also, I imagine, the kind of thing in the ring that we basically never use, right? This is a space nuke.
I think she's like, I thought that those were banned by treaty.
I think that it is something that is probably questioned whether it even exists. It is sort of outside of the ruling philosophy of the ring to sort of do harm like this.
Yeah, this is for sure some silent accords are the only people who are deploying these things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it, right? That's Argo's pitch for it, is that he's going to walk into the Basilica and do something with this machine, and that we need to get Dr. Forstall off this boat. And if anyone wants to disagree, I'm open to that, but I think that is probably the kind of thing that Argo would do.
Did you call flashback on that where you had the tithe?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the tithe is?
I think it's like a Concordat authority override seal, right?
Got
it's
it.
the thing that would have let
For the ship.
right, because they were trying to reclaim the cenotaph. This is the key to get access and hopefully unlock the lifeboats that I assume are still inside the ship.
A ship of that size, I think that's a safe assumption. This game's really built on safe assumption.
So yeah, I'm doing like the kind of like noble self-sacrifice offer thing, but also maybe I'm still gonna get off this fucking boat. Who knows?
Yeah.
Let's see how good the roll is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, if anyone wants to like
I think
grab my
Bracco.
shoulder and say no, you can't go alone. You're more than one.
I think Bracco kind of is like, there are many people who can wield a gun in this world. Argo, you have many more things to offer when we get back home. I can take it. Is it a physical?
Don't kill yourself. You're too morally ambiguous.
Is it like an actual like work to get up there, the Basilica doors, or can you just walk straight in?
No, it's like, I think right in front,
Oh,
like,
okay.
this was sort of like laid out in front of you. And so this basilica, I think, is probably, I don't know, 20, 30 feet. You're in like sort of the surrounding garden and sort of plaza.
We also don't know what's in there, and if anyone's going to be able to last longer as they come in droves, it's going to be me.
Dr. Forstall, any thoughts on the plan?
I'm getting out of here. I need to take this information back to the ring. We need to know more about this.
Someone's got to survive, right?
Someone's got to
Otherwise,
survive to tell the tale. I don't think any of us has to die, but if
But
you
especially
wanna-
not me.
Yeah, but especially not me.
Are we splitting the party? Is that what we're doing?
How about I go? Listen, I'm gonna go get the lifeboat ready, and then I'm going to start a countdown. And if you're not back in time, I'll take off.
Synchronized watches,
So are we both going in? I'm acting as guns to Argo's taking the thing in, or am I going with the doctor?
Oh, you're coming in with me, Bracco.
Okay, yeah. Great. I love it.
I think this is like handing the Concordat authority seal to Dr. Forstall, like kind of shoving it in her hands. And I'm like, by memory, right? Conciliator class warship. Lifeboats are going to be on level 3, port and starboard. Find us a working lifeboat. We'll see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like lifting the prosthetic hand, like a clock starts flashing on the back of like the hand.
Bracco and Argo, you are going to push forward into the Basilica while Dr. Forstall makes her way to the cenotaph to get an escape plan ready.
Get the car heated up.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
And yeah, I think Argo, reaches into those pockets, pulls out like a battered hand-rolled cigarette, lights it, and starts to march up towards the Basilica with Bracco.
Bracco, as they're headed up, takes the gun from Dr. Forstall's, hip where it would be, maybe unused as of yet, puts it in the hand and goes, "This is going to be your best tool now. You know how to use it." Yeah, no, and then heads in.
Okay, so we set out from here, right? You've chosen your paths. Dr. Forstall's going to kind of climb the distance between you and the cenotaph. Argo and Bracco are going to enter the Basilica. Let's start with you, Dr. Forstall. You see Bracco and Argo start heading off towards the Basilica. From where you are, there is this burrow, and from the burrow extends this column where the cenotaph is sort of crashed and embedded. Between you and where you need to be, there is this gash in the burrow, and there are these sentinel phage, right, who are seemingly sort of mindlessly crawling around, and I think they're kind of have begun to sort of repair this hole, like in the burrow. They're trying anyway, so you can see them kind of like knitting it together with those copper gold filaments that we've seen before. They're sort of occupied there, but I think the challenge for you will be closing this distance without sort of attracting their attention. So it's kind of laid out, right? Like you can kind of go back where the cable car, the funicular terminal is, and from there, I think there is, some amount of distance between you and the bow of the cenotaph.
I'm just gonna go for it. I mean, what else is there to do?
So to kind of get to where the cenotaph is, you're gonna need to slip by these like sentinel fish going about their work.
Oh boy.
So I think you can probably make out from here that there is like a portion of the hull sort of facing you that has sort of been disassembled. I think you could even see some of the decks inside, but you'll need to slip by here undetected.
Okay.
What do you got?
That's going
to be a skulk.
It's a skulk roll, and I have nothing in skulk.
And you can get creative here, right? You know that this place is sort of woven and shot through with these sort of like unusual fundamental sort of signatures and entities you've attuned before, but at some great cost to you. You could certainly sneak here. I can give you a devil's bargain. You could push yourself. You could use a piece of your load if you have something thoughtful.
I have spy gear. Disguises, nope, that won't work.
Disguised as a centipede.
Yeah.
Centipede.
What would the devil's bargain be?
I will advance the Aeonian stability
Yeah.
clock.
And we only have 3 segments
You
left on
have
that.
4 remaining segments because you
Okay.
kind of made your choice.
Okay, so then I'd be rolling a 1 instead of a 0. What do I have at my disposal? I don't really feel like I have anything particularly at my disposal that would help me in this situation.
And it feels like
You
a
could
bad
always
time
use
to...
your I'm not a doctor move.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I forgot the starting ability. I always forget about that.
That's true. You have I'm not a doctor,
say
which
what-
would let you push yourself to roll your doctor rating while performing a different action.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
very tight.
At what point in my posting did I have to sneak around?
Maybe you're just recalling what you've been seeing from Argot and, Bracco in the...
Maybe this is just something I learned scouring and looking around first era sites, and there's traps and there's pressure plates and things.
So I'll take that. You can use this roll to use your doctor rating to skull cure.
And I have to push myself to do that though. So I'm taking 1 stress.
You'd push yourself for 2 stress.
Oh right, so that it gives me 8 stress.
Yeah, leaving you with one
with
to spare.
1 to spare.
And this is pretty dire here, so I'm going to say that this is a desperate standard effect.
Okay, desperate standard. I'm just gonna.
So you can take a dice, you can add a level 2 effect.
So it'd be 4d6 standard effect or 3d6 great effect. I'll take the extra die.
So that'll be 4 dice for a desperate standard effect. That's a 5.
5. Ooh, glad I took that extra die.
So, drawing on your experience, what do you do in a situation like this? How are you closing this distance? Like, are you kind of just, Pink Panthering around on tippy toes?
I think maybe it's a full belly to the ground crawl.
So it does take a little while, I think I'll say, on a 5.
Yeah.
And it's a partial, so I think you can kind of slip between these kind of parts that stick out. You can kind of move through largely undetected. But I think that at some point, I'm not even sure that you notice it, right? But as you're kind of like moving through these boulders, I think at the area where you're sort of getting close to where this gash is, we talked this before, that these sentinel phage sort of like leave this filament wire that they're kind of stitching this gash back together on. And, at some point, I think that you snag one of these with your kit, right? Like your belts, your boot, something kind of draping or hanging from your fit, I think like twangs one of them. And it's almost like a guitar string, right? Where you can like this reverberation kind of ticks, but I don't think you notice because you are able to close this distance pretty well. I'm clicking this clock forward on the Aeonian stability. And, I think at the moment that you are sort of like coming into this hull, where the hull meets this column, I don't think we see this, or like you would not see this, Dr. Forstall, but the camera would, which is that I think as you kind of click your pen light on and enter the sort of darkened interior of this Concordat warship, the sentinel phage don't have a head to turn, but I think they step away from their work, right? And start coming, I think, in the direction that you've entered the ship. And we see them closing that distance, but you've made it inside. And I think the camera pulls out as we see the beam of your light move through the entrance and further into the ship. I'm going to flip the camera over to Argot and Bracco. Okay, so Argot, Bracco, you see Dr. Forstall making their way, and as you enter the Basilica, this cavernous interior comes into view as you get closer to this precipice. I think even above you, you can see that this Basilica roof, the precipice is sort of starting to fissure with stress cracks. I think from where you're standing, you can see you're in the precipice. The inside of this, if you're like kind of familiar, again, I'm kind of drawing from the Hagia Sophia. It's this vaulted interior, right? It's dark. I think that there is light kind of pouring in from around one of these domed roof pieces. The light kind of falls from the interior down kind of towards the rear of the Basilica. Instead of where there would have been an apse in like a cathedral in like the Catholic tradition, The backdrop of this basilica, I think, is the wall of the burl, right? And so you can see this, I think, from the light kind of hanging still in this room, but it is not quiet in this basilica. There are things moving around. You can see shapes oscillating, I think, in the canopy of this dome. I think there's one large sort of central sphere, and there are a couple of other ones in a slow arc moving around them. You would recognize this from the briefing with Perneb as the system you are in. And as you move further into here, you have this image of the Tenemer system above, and I think that there is like a colonnade that leads towards this apse. And now that you're inside, I think you can see in the dim light kind of trickling through that in the rear of this basilica, where this burl wall is, I think, so the remains of what was probably the reactor here at some point. And they are, I think, 3 pillars in, some kind of steel or metal at one point. The central one, I think, is a, broken kind of version of this. And in the center of that, I think, is suspended like another of these, round kind of spheres. This one, though, is sort of like thrumming and it has an uneven and unstable surface of cesium gold. And there are areas of this, I think, that are sort of plated like panels of metal reaching around the sides of the sphere. The ceiling, I think, moves and shudders with these sentinel phage. I think you see the sort of shadow of these metamaterial wolves that you saw moving through the ruined biolab before are on various levels here. And there's sort of a catwalk that runs along the back of this basilica apse. It's probably just below the sphere with these plated pieces on it.
Are any of these sentinel phages moving near us or reacting to us as we kind of enter this area?
No, I think that they are kind of moving around the ceiling. You sort of seem not to be particularly noticed at the moment. The ground in here is sort of run through with these kind of veiny webs. And this webbing seems to emanate outwards from the back of this.
Yeah, I think I probably look to Bracco. You ever see an alien god before?
No, but I've always wanted to kill one.
And I think Argot is going to kneel. I am going to take the Black Swan device out of my coat. I'm thinking a little bit here about, this is a weird poll, but in Hellraiser, there is the Lament configuration, which is this puzzle box that they manipulate into different shapes, and that is how you summon the demons. Mm-hmm. But I imagine that Argot is manipulating this device in a similar way, right? Moving panels and then rearranging them. I'm starting to set it up. And I think as I do so, I think Argot starts speaking to the room. This Bracco, you can tell I'm not speaking to you anymore. But I think I probably do, the hand sign for ready again. Back my play.
Where are you in the basilica? Have you entered and are going towards the back? Are you kind of in the middle?
Yeah, I guess I assumed we were walking in towards the back and then kind of stopping in front of these big reactor tanks and what seems like the important place, right?
Yeah.
And I think it is while we are in the shadow of this enormous reactor, this broken one. And obviously, Argot's head is running with theories about what's happened here, what's going on. But that's Dr. Forstall's area of concern, and she's not here with us.
Yeah.
Maybe I say that actually, right? Yeah, I do. I start to do the configuration on the box, and I'm looking up at this this sphere with the cesium flowing around it, and the sentinel, the whole, all of it, right? I'm just taking it in, and it's I've got 1,000 ideas about what you might be, about what happened here, but that's Dr. Forstall's area of concern, not mine. And it's click, clunk, as the polygon keeps shifting in my hands. There are hundreds of ring texts on what to do in a first contact situation. How to handle the interaction with something outside of our context while maintaining our values and beliefs. We take to the stars with one hand empty, to tear down walls and build a better world. And I think, again, continuing to ka-chunk this machine.
I think you feel a stirring, right? Your voice carries here. As you're sort of saying this, right? The thrumming in this room is building. It is still. I think the image in my mind for this is sort of the the music video for Power, you know, that Kanye West song? Like, this is
Yeah.
now old, but where it's like this kind of vaulted room, and it's almost like there are murals of activity. And I think, in fact, there are indeed murals here, right? Like along the walls and along the ceiling. Some of which I think you would recognize, you know, vaguely as maybe the beacon network itself, like points of light across the ceiling. And as you're saying this part here about there are, you know, ways of kind of dealing with first contact, it sort of comes like an echo down a long hallway. And it builds and it builds and it builds and it grows towards you. And it's like the sonic kind of force of washes over you, hitting you like a wall. And I think with a choir of voices in this kind of thrumming, like acoustic wave, right? I think it just hits you like, open your heart. And I think you kind of feel this cascade over you. I don't even know if you're hearing this or if it's just in your head, right? It's like, open your heart to the truth, step to the altar of apotheosis, right? And I think like this is just washing over you. And the sensation of this is like this colonnade suddenly stretches onward, right? Like it's sort of like in Fellowship of the Ring when the Dark Rider comes and there's that like weird distortion of the focal length. And I think that the floor beneath you like shudders, and these sort of veins here, I think, gurgle and thrum and pulse. And you can see, I think, like thick lumps of it going through these kind of passageways towards this central column.
Gross. Then yeah, I think it's like, yeah, wincing with the force of effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way like Argot is talking as if this thing hasn't spoken back, right? He's like continuing on his like rant, and it's also probably this measured mode of speaking. I talked before about this almost like mesmerizing or like hypnotic mode of intonation, right? It's like almost metronomic, like he's speaking to try and keep himself on mental track as the force of this thing's presence exerts itself on him. And it's like, again, standard operating procedure. Retreat, observe, and understand. But I know what you are. You're a parasite, you know, clunk, clunk. Snake in the garden, clunk, clunk. You're a wasp trying to get into the nest, clunk, clunk. And then I think, you know, there's like the edges of each of the polygons on this thing start to light up blue. That is it activating. I'm happy to roll to make me see if I get to that point. I'm trying to set this thing with a very short timer to blow up as much of this ship and this whole place as we can.
I think as you say parasite, like you feel the ground beneath you shudder. And I think, you know, this sort of thrumming, this voice from the void, again, like I think erupts louder this time. Then you will know as you have been known. And I think the sphere at the apse here revolves, and it is like hard to look at, almost radiant, as the sphere sort of oscillates and turns around, revealing this sort of vast eye. And I think it blinks in a kind of strange way in this cesium gold. I think it's dripping thick gobs of this, and these veins kind of keep pulling up towards it. Give me a roll to set this timer.
Hell yeah, happy to do it. What are you thinking? Rig?
Yeah, I think that's probably rig.
Ooh, well, tricky here.
You have one in rig.
One in rig.
I can give you a devil's bargain.
What's the position in effect here?
This is going to be a desperate grade.
Feels pretty desperate to me. That's great. It being desperate will give me one extra d6. I'm a daredevil. I guess I got to push myself for that extra dice. That leaves me with one stress kind of floating around, hanging out.
Trying to think of how I can help besides being a gun.
Yeah, I mean, Bracco, what are you doing? There's plenty of targets around here. I'll say that. You know, this room is like full of movement of what you would probably now understand to be the organism in all its multifaceted ways.
Yeah, I guess surprisingly, in all the other times that Bracco has shot his gun, I think Argot has maybe instilled a little bit of patience. We don't need to shoot until there is a reason to. And I have a feeling, as this thing has been communicating to us, that like it is allowing us to be here right now. So I think it is prepping for the moment it tries to stop us.
So is there an assist there, or we're holding off on assisting?
This one's on you, bad boy.
I mean, I can assist.
I mean, it doesn't feel like there's really much of a...
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll roll the 3. I'll roll the 3. Desperate great. Doesn't matter, dude. I'm gonna roll 3 6s. It's gonna be the devil's crit.
And I think, this eye,
Yep.
gaze is upon you, I think is sort of dripping, but these veins, right, like this network of webbing is like thick and bundled behind this apse, seeping from the burl behind. This is what has been calling. This is what the Aeonian is really inhabited by. Yeah, let her rip. Let's see if this works.
All right. Setting up a bomb. Oh, Lord.
I know.
Oh my god! Okay, that's a 3.
A 3 and a 1. Don't worry.
That is a failure. So,
Oh man, listener, if you could only see Mitchell's hair right now.
suddenly turned gray all of a sudden.
Oh, the white in my beard just tripled.
Yeah, so that is a failure. A few things happen at once here. And, you work the configuration, right? It is in its position, like ready to set the timer. And, you kind of mentioned there's like phosphorescence edges indicating that it's on. And I think as you are about to do this, when this entity kind of like utters, "You will be known," I think this wave sort of erupts forward. And I think this pulse, you can like see it, right? It moves the air in this room. 1, I'm going to tick the clock forward. That leaves 2 remaining segments. Second, the Black Swan device here goes dark. I think that it is still roiling like inside of this, but something has malfunctioned. Finally, I think as you are setting this, sort of look down, right? And what you are seeing fill the room from the edges of the burl wall is this ichor pouring out of the pockmarked holes that we've seen throughout where the sentinel phage move. And it is like gurgling forward here. At the same time, this shockwave sort of shakes the foundations. I think a chunk of the ceiling cracks and falls, and yeah, you are fucked. Just kidding.
Roll to
Dr.
die.
Forstall.
I'm making my way to the lifeboat.
Yes. So I think you're coursing to the interior. If there has been a scene in this adventure closer to straight horror, this is probably it. There is no power inside this hulk. The kind of remains of this are dark, cramped hallways strewn about with the debris of an impact. Have you been in a concordant vessel before?
No. Actually, yes, I have been. Definitely, some crashed ships here and there, shipwrecks that I've been in.
Well, this is a warship, and it is dark, it is dangerous. I think where you have entered is like along a exterior hallway. This is probably one of several gun batteries. There is like the remains of all of these cannonades. I think they look like big howitzers. You're climbing over these on your way kind of through here. It's dark, it's dangerous, and I think that is when you hear something clatter near you in the direction that you're going, which, you asked before if there's signage. I think there probably is, but do you know where you're going?
Yeah, I'm following the signs.
Okay.
I think Argot gave like the deck level you would find it on.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know Concordat warships.
Yes. You have this tithe. There is passage here. It's definitely in ruin. Like there's stuff, falling from the ceiling.
Well, just gotta keep going.
Seemingly all quiet as you make your way crossing this gun battery, right? Like you probably around this time are like thrown to the wall, right? Like the entire superstructure of this interior lurches and shudders. And I think like stuff is like rattling, falling here. I think like cabling, drapes down. I think you even kind of like get kind of knocked by some of this. Something just happened. And as you, I think, kind of recover, there is a room up ahead to your right, like where the exterior is. There are a number of sealed doorways. I think you could probably make out that this is one of those Chisel class shuttles that we saw in the hangar. But the systems here are pretty quiet. It doesn't seem like there's any power inside.
Try the tithe to open up the pod. Does that work?
You're gonna have to turn the power on here somehow to like get this free. You have a couple options here. You have this I'm a doctor, not a roll. There's like a lot of exposed paneling and cabling here. You can probably look like try and MacGyver this panel open and maybe try that. Like the tithe is not working because the receptor is not on.
This normally would be a rig roll or a hack roll. It'd be a rig roll, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I can't push myself anymore because then I'd stress out.
Gosh, do you have like a
No, I don't.
sophisticated pocket-sized computer?
I've got the briefcase stage. I could try and plug it into the wall and
That
see
could work.
if that works.
Could I throw something out there
Sure.
worth thinking about? Dr. Forstall is aboard a Concordat warship, which is a warship powered by deeply complicated fundamental technologies and machines. Generally, working with the fundament in Scum and Villainy requires attuning it.
Attuning it, yes.
Yeah, could you possibly like attune to like something in the ship?
All right, so I'm going to attune with the door and try and make it open. Was that what you're saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, maybe there's like something
yeah.
you can attune to, some kind of
yeah,
machine,
we're
or just become a living conduit for its power. I don't know. You want to try and get.
Yeah, I could like hold on to either end of the cables and let the power run through me and open it up that way. Hotwire it using my brain.
That's kind of cool, right? The fundament is a supernatural force, but it's been harnessed. So I think you can like maybe breathe a little like life into a spark with the kind of right fundamental nudge. So you're extending your mind outward to try and open this circuit breaker. Give me an attune roll. You've got 2 and attune.
I'm gonna roll it dry. I can't push myself.
I'll give you a
I
devil's
believe we're out of
bargain.
gambits. Devil's bargain that would push the Aeonian up to 11 out of 12, probably.
Correct.
Not really giving much of my compatriots a chance to get out. But if I don't get this out, they're not going to get out anyway. All right, so yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be desperate standard. Things are pretty dire right now.
Yeah.
You need to get the heck out of here.
I will take an extra die, push the clock up for you.
So that'll give you
3d6 in a tune.
3d6 going
Let's
forward.
go.
Six.
Hey, it opened.
Okay, you are feeling the stress in your current conditions, right? Like the kind of necessity of the action pushes this ability beyond what you even thought was possible. Sort of feels like cracking a knuckle or something, right? Like in a moment, you hear a hum as this panel kind of whirs to life. This tithe, this Concordat access code, for some reason I'm imagining this is like on a chain, like a rosary.
Yeah, for sure.
I think like as the panel wakes, this, 7-pointed star, almost like magnetic, like shunk, like adheres, right, to like a groove in the panel where it was maybe meant to go. But this door shutters open, a gust of stale air washes over you and dust stirs. But there it is. It's nothing fancy. I think it has basic kind of armament from where you're standing. Like I'm imagining being in a helicopter fuselage. You can see out the front. This is a warship that probably had hundreds of these at some point. And, I think as you step in, it sort of whirs to life. And you can feasibly get this thing moving.
All right.
Okay. Bracco, Argot, things are looking dire. This room is starting to fragment. Like a chunk of the ceiling, I think, falls. This eye at the apse of the Basilica, I think is big, blinking. I think the veins are sort of like threading together, almost like tentacles emanating like a star sort of around this thing. In a weird, grim reflection, it's like a 7-pointed star. And I think that this entity here borrows, it reconstitutes, it makes a sort of living collage out of memory, genetics, biology, anything that it can kind of glom onto. And you are its next acquisition. You definitely have some opportunity to act, but I think in Lurching Shudder, this voice booms again. Open your heart, apostates. And I think one of these threaded together, like veiny extremities wraps around the column to the right, and you see another wrap around the column to the left, and it sort of looks like it's beginning to free itself. Time is of the essence. Your Silent Accords emblem badge that was given to you by Perneb is like beeping at this point.
Bracco wants to do what in some forms of training has been called, because this world has our Bible, the Samson method. As this thing's trying to use these appendages, I'm going to try to bring that down upon it. And either place explosives or doing damage to these columns so that it starts to collapse from the back. And as it does that, we can try to get out as it crumbles as we escape.
Sure. So you are drawing on the wisdom of the Old Testament with the Samson method.
One of your muscle items might be an interesting one. It's a fine flamethrower.
I don't think I have space to call it.
How much shit you got on you? So right now you're at 5, right? However, when we were creating our cruise ship, one of the things we chose was smuggler's rigging. One carried item is concealed and has no weight.
Folks, that's how you play the game.
Hey, you know what costs
That's what I
1 though?
would've done.
And you do have room for 1. A detonator.
A detonator. Yeah. I think the danger is he is going to have to get in reach of these tentacles, but he can run and slap a detonator onto these pillars right by this eye and the arms, and hopefully that comes crashing down on that and giving us time to take another action or to get the fuck out of here.
Sure, do it. You're gonna have to place them. You can do it though. As this is sort of happening, I think it's more and more apparent what has been psychic illusion and what is real as this place is becoming increasingly unstable. And when this clock hits 12, this thing is going to slip back into the beyond, the folded space-time of thread space, when we have no idea what happens there. So at this point, the illusion is breaking. I think reality is beginning to fray at the edges. So you're gonna have to act quickly. I think that sounds like scramble. I would take, you kind of need to get there quickly and place this. It could also be, I think, like rigging, but maybe you don't have the benefit of time.
Yeah, I think it's literally it's just like jumping over any of these weird tendrils that are growing out. Get over the webbing as just like ichor pours through and up through the eye. It's to avoid these like channels of stuff that's flowing.
And yeah, I think that there's like chunks falling from the ceiling. Like you can probably hop boulder to boulder over this like growing flood around your ankles. So go ahead and scramble.
All right. Let's see.
You have 2 in scramble. You can push yourself for 2. Can offer you a devil's bargain, of course.
Mm-hmm.
If I assist you, it will stress me out. Yeah, it will put me at my maximum for stress here.
I mean, I guess I could push myself and perform a feat of physical force that verges on superhuman, where it's just like, for a man this big, it is shocking to watch him travel that distance.
Like throwing things that are like a human's full weight out of your way to get to.
Yeah, like a piece of the ceiling crumbles and it's just moved out of his way as he like...
You move it into the place that you want to leap next.
Yeah,
I like that. Stuff is like kind of coming hard and fast here. In quick sequence of this montage, right, of you kind of closing this distance, I think that like, just as in the garden before, this surface like stirs with shapes. But go ahead and roll.
All right. So that would be...
You take 2 stress for the push.
Mm-hmm.
You can take an extra dice. You can get greater effect. You can take action. This is going to be desperate. Great.
What do you guys think? Should I take...
Take the dice.
Dice, okay.
3d6.
All right. Oh, Christ in heaven. 2 and 2 1s.
Okay.
So that's a failure.
We're gonna die on this boat.
Oh, sorry, Doctor.
I'm getting out of here. I don't know what
This
you're talking
is,
about.
you don't even know what's going on right now, right? So for Bracco, you make this leap, right? And I think that as you were on this kind of like last bit of rubble to close the distance to this pillar, I think it's like this rug is kind of pulled out from under you. And what I'm gonna say here is that from this surface of the cesium pooling around you, as you're leaping, it's like something grabs you, right? And I think at this point, like the illusion is breaking down. So it sort of looks like 2 things at the same time, sort of like the maw of a crocodile, but it's also kind of at the end of a tentacle. And this kind of parting, snapping thing, I think wraps itself around one of your feet, kind of around the ankle, and you sort of fall forward. This explosive, I think, it's a 2. You're going to take damage on this. You could resist, of course, but I think this is going to be the level 1 harm snared. But you kind of fall flat. I think the grenade-like explosive, maybe a couple of these in your giant hands, kind of rolls away. You are sort of at the beginning of like an altar where the apse is to these columns, and you're being pulled back down. You could resist here. This would be, a prowess resist and push through, and you would be resisting the consequences of this strain and failure.
Worst case scenario, you stress out and...
You're out of the scene.
Yeah.
You don't have to play anymore. You're all done. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck.
Drive that character like a stolen car, baby.
I guess.
We're in the close of action.
You're right. He's pushing to fight against this thing to get his hands on the detonator.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is like the action movie. You're like, you know, like looking down, you can see it, you can kick and flail and try and throw this thing off. Give me that resistance roll. You have actually incredible prowess resistance. You have 4 pips in those categories. You can roll 4 dice. You'll suffer 6 stress minus the highest dice result.
4d6. 5.
5. So that is 1 stress.
Okay, I got 1 stress left, baby.
And you shake this off. I don't know if you have an idea here. You have this vibroblade. Maybe you're sawing it. You sever it, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The blade comes out and just hacking at it.
Like cutting a vine. I think
exactly.
it falls
and it
away.
Withers kind of back away. Yeah.
Yes. And so on a 5 here, I'm going to say you're up on this altar. You've kind of kicked this off. This column is here. This is in the course of maybe 30 seconds. You can set this. And I think on a 5, you can safely place this. Argo, you've just watched Bracco have a very near miss. It is dire.
So Bracco's like trying to place the bombs around the base of the column. Is that what's going on?
I think he has, essentially, on a 5 here, right? Is like you are seeing Bracco place this and start leaping on these boulders. I'm going to take place in, I'm just checking in with you here before I let Bracco kind of set this explosion off. If not, if you want to act afterwards, we can let that happen.
So so Bracco is going to get to plant the explosives. That's.
I think so. Yeah. There's like a momentary pause here.
Then I think I am stepping up, like towards. It's this big floating orb that has like the cesium spilling out of it, and this is like where the tentacles are coming out of.
Yes, and it sort of pulled itself forward off of these columns, like Tim was saying, like Samson, right? It's kind of like wrapped around this. Bracco is now directly underneath this, and I think from your vantage point, you can see that this is trying to shape body into form.
All right, I think I would do something here, right? Like to put the finishing touches on the explosions that are about to bring the columns down on top of this thing. I have not fired a gun this entire game, which has been intentional. I have 1 load left. I would like to now mark my fine sidearm.
Oh, right. What is your weapon of choice?
So I think that this is reaching into the code very specifically with the like cybernetic hand. And I think the thing that I draw out is enormous. It is this kind of squared off revolver. The like visual pull in my mind here is like Deckard's blaster in Blade Runner, the Samaritan from Hellboy, kind of like class of weapons in Destiny. They're called hand cannons, but it is this enormous gun. This is a Discipline Foundry's conductor model blunderbuss. And I am also going to mark Mystic Ammunition, which is a large caliber shell designed to be fired from a specialized gun that releases mystic energies when it hits. Grants potency against mystic targets. I don't know if anyone else on here knows this. Outlaw Star.
Oh yeah, I
from
know
like it was like an anime that aired on Toonami.
I love that.
And the main character had like a gun that was called a caster, and it fired like spell shells, right?
Yeah.
So I think as Argo draws the blunderbuss out from his coat, the kind of like wrist forearm area of my prosthetic hand opens up. And inside there is like an orichalcum etched shell with like a glass ampule in the middle that I think contains kind of a, you know, I talk about this like fundamental storm that is inside the Black Swan device. It's like a similar contained implosion. And I think, you know, the blunderbuss breaks at the middle as I draw it out. It's pulling this fundamental shell out of the forearm, slotting it into the gun, like as it like locks back in. And I imagine Argo looks like a little disappointed. It always comes down to someone pointing a gun at someone else. And then I think he aims it and fires it. It's good works. I imagine the explosion is like a cartoonish burst of fundamental energy pouring out of the front of this gun. Like the kind of thing you use to punch a hole in a tank, right? And I think there's a specific reason Argo uses the prosthetic hand to fire this gun. You know, I think it's like the only way he could do it without breaking his entire arm.
That's very sick.
The light in the room turns negative for a moment as I pull the trigger.
Oh yeah, I love that. Give me a scrap.
It sounds like scrap, unfortunately.
Let's see. You are out of gambits.
Out of gambits.
I could give you a devil's bargain here. Or otherwise, you are rolling
1d6.
1d6. You can't push yourself. I guess you could. It could knock you out.
What's the devil's bargain? Can't be the Aeonian, because you click that, game's over.
I know.
Is it some damage? I'll take some damage. You can hurt me good.
I think that would be the devil's bargain here, right? If you fire this round, like you are in an unstable fundamental environment with a lot of variables. Firing this round here on a devil's bargain, I will give you an extra dice. This is going to be a desperate great action.
Oh, well,
which
like
I know you're
desperate.
excited to hear.
Yeah. I like the desperate roll.
But you will suffer a level 3 harm.
I'll take that. Yeah, that's money for me.
Okay. I'm going to give you the level 3 harm frayed, like the fraying of your grasp on reality here. This room thrums with an unusual energy. You are effectively at the heart of the storm. This eye barreling down. I love the image of like popping this out, like you're chambering it out of like your hidden spot into this Discipline Foundry's conductor model blunderbuss here. And
start up
you
the orchestra,
slot this in. This is the crescendo, right? And room dims, you pull, and from your perspective, Bracco, you can kind of glance. It's like it takes a second for the eruption of energy to like burst forth from the barrel of this weapon, and it builds as a point of white hot light.
Roll them bones. All right.
6, baby.
Double sixes. That's a crit.
That was so close. So close.
Oh, lordy.
So this 6, right? Like this is an eruption of energy from the end of the barrel. There's a scene in Gundam Wing where Wing Zero is just like letting loose on everything it's got, and like the beam of this surges forward. And I think on a 6 here, this fundamental round.
That's double 6. That's a crit, baby.
That's a crit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you tell me.
Oh, I mean, the scene of Wing Zero, right? The Buster Cannon, this kind of like wash of light that is just sort of in the same way that this thing converts things into itself into cesium. I feel like there's like a flood of fundamental energy that's breaking everything in its path back down to like fundament, right? I also like, you know, I gotta shout out my teenage inspirations. I'd really think of like Goku and the Kamehameha, right? Just like this beautiful, pure, like kind of river of energy pouring out of the barrel of this gun. Argo doesn't have a lot of these. This might be the only one he's had for decades. You know, it is the kind of thing that you bring out in the most dire circumstance. You know, it would punch a hole in an armor if you were aiming it close enough.
This is an enormous amount of energy being dispelled. So
Can I
much
throw a
so.
camera shot out?
Oh yeah.
Like sound cuts out, wide shot, space, and just like the thread of blue light punching out the side of the Aeonian for a moment.
That's
exactly
sick.
where I was going. We get this shot in space of this silence that is suddenly erupted first by a thin beam, and I think then just this like wash of energy. And I think as you let loose this torrent, the room is suddenly stilled. That thrumming sound, I think, quiets. And for the first time that you have probably been on here, you know, I think this sort of psychic din quiets before this hole is like punched through the outside of this, right? And like as it sort of hits, the light in this room is like blinding. But I think you're left with a word. Behold. As we cut, Argot, you are taking a level 3 harm, which means you need help. You are effectively incapacitated.
I think this is like trusting in Bracco to take me home, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hoist him up on the shoulders.
Yeah, I think being this close to firing this gun is also not good for, you know, right? The fundamental radiation that's just poured over Argo is like bad news, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, this is not the kind of thing that you break out in your everyday.
When the kind of storm clears briefly after you've let this round loose, your clothing and your jacket is like frayed and torn. I think is even kind of gone, like up to the shoulder. But it is quiet in here. I think that the kind of danger is immediately past. You are going to have to get Argot out of here.
Absolutely.
Flash cut, Dr. Forstall, we are seeing you inside this chisel-class shuttle. You can push that thruster forward, I think, in a moment. Like, you were thrown back into the seat as this sort of moves along the launch rail. I think you can careen it forward, and I think by the time you are pulling up to the edge of this crumbling basilica at the front of where the garden was, where you first encountered Dendergast, you see a hulking figure carrying
For sure.
the sort of fragile form of Argot, clearly worse for the wear. Pulling up all around you, this interior is falling. Like, the inside of the Aeonian is becoming unstable all around you, but you are in the clear. You have done it. And I think that, like, that echoing remark, "Behold," sticks with you as you push the afterburner safely on board through this sort of hole in the hull out into the vacuum of space. I have one more question. Does this bomb go off?
In my mind, if I'm spending my last stress on a flashback here, right?
Right.
It's like as Bracco is picking up like Argot and putting him in his arms, right? It is like the non-prosthetic hand, like kind of like shifting the plates one more time and dropping that little like polyhedral star, the Black Swan device, onto the ground of the Basilica, right as like Bracco shoulders forward and carries us out.
Absolutely. That's our parting shot, right? As you're making your way up the gangplank into the shuttle here, Argot's arm, I think, slips, right? And from your limp hand drops this thing. And so as you careen away, we leave the Aeonian behind. There is a pinprick and then an eruption of lights as the field then suddenly collapses. But you've done it. And I think when you board, you make your way back as we kind of barrel through this debris field back towards Provenance Station. And as the doors slide open, Perneb is there again. Well done, operatives.